On this episode of the Houndsman XP, it is going to be mass mayhem. We have got a point blank coming at you, and it is the whole Houndsman XP crew plus our guest, Mark Dufresne, coming at us from Maine. And we're going to get into this thing. It's wild. I'll just tell you right now. It starts off wild. It ends wild. But in the middle, we've got some very valuable information for you. And we're going to discuss some of the hardest hitting, hottest topics affecting us as houndsmen. And in this episode, you're going to hear some wild and crazy stories about interactions with wildlife, bizarre interactions with wildlife. We're going to talk about wolves and wolf management. Wisconsin is in the middle of a battle right now, trying to maintain and augment and hold on to their wolf management plans up there. And Lauren Branny, if you're not following her on social media, then do so. She will keep you informed. She's passing tons of information on her personal pages. Also, you can go over to the Houndsman XP group. She's posting there as well all the latest information and what you need to know about wolf management. And even if you don't hunt Wisconsin, you need to hear what they're doing. Pick up some pointers, and then get with people from the Wisconsin Bear Hunters Association, because they're leading the charge on this thing. And Luke Hilgeman with Hunter Nation. They are also testifying and helping lead the charge on this battle to manage wolves in Wisconsin. So even if you're from another state and you've got wolves in your state, I'm telling you right now, there's information here for you to glean. I'm not going to beat my gums a long time in this pre-roll. It's a great show, and I want to get right down to it. This is a wild and crazy. I'm not even sure which way this track's going, but we're going to open the doors on the Old South Dog Box. It's time to dump the box.
Mark, I wish you were on video. I don't even know what you look like.
It's better that way, trust me.
I mean, I wish I wasn't on video. It looks like I haven't showered, but I showered last night. Doesn't feel like it anymore.
Liar.
No, I did.
You did not. Or you're probably
in a
on
normal week.
You're like on the 3-day rotation. You work from home.
In a normal week, you are right. But yesterday I did a lot of stuff and tried to mow the yard before the storms, and I felt disgusting. So that's why the hair is braided, because I did the post-shower braid.
I thought you maybe you did that before you took a shower so you didn't have to wash your hair. That's what I'm thinking. I grew up with 3 girls one woman and 2 girls in my house.
I'm not even going to talk about my shower regime.
In this weather, you kind of have to wash your hair, but if it was winter, yeah, you don't wash your hair every time you shower. Yeah.
Well, we are going forward with this point blank, and we are complete here on the Houndsman XP team, except for Shorty, who is MIA and well informed, and I'm not sure where the heck he's at. But we've got Mark Dufresne with us from Maine. How you doing, Mark?
I'm good. Thanks for having me, Chris.
Yeah, I'm glad to have you back, man. I'll tell you what, the last episode you did with us for Houndsman XP was a big hit, and we thought, what the heck, we'll try it again.
Well, good deal. I hope I can add something interesting.
So just give our guests a real quick rundown, Mark. Just give us like a 2-minute resume.
2-minute resume.
Is that possible?
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I mean, you pull up my name on the internet, and there's a big list of stuff. So let's see.
America's Most Wanted, FBI Most Wanted list.
Yeah, for sure. So, I live out here in Maine, and went to school for wildlife biology. I've always hunted and fished, and been a taxidermist most of my life. Worked around the country doing wildlife biology work, and settled back in Maine, and continue to do taxidermy, and I guide, breed my plot dogs, and that pretty much sums up my life.
Man, that's worth a lot more than 2 minutes. Sorry.
And for you guys that are listening, just to reference back, he was on episode 110 of our podcast about breeding, selecting, and conditioning.
And he was on before that too.
I don't have that. Yeah. I don't have that number in front of me.
Yeah, it's way back. It's way back there.
I gotta scroll. Yeah.
It's way back there.
Way back.
Yeah.
Mark, I'll save the listeners a bunch of like nerdy mumbo jumbo, but what do you primarily work with?
Biology.
Well, so right now I've been doing taxidermy full time for quite a while, but when I was doing wildlife work, I worked out in Oregon, worked up in Alaska, worked out in Wisconsin, worked here in Maine. Right now, the taxidermy work is kind of let me get grounded. The wildlife work, I was all over the place, it was seasonal work, and it was pretty tough to have a family. So, bang, I landed back here, and I'm a taxidermist, and I was mounting a big old bear today, big black bear from coastal North Carolina.
Dang, that's rad. Yeah, that's the thing. The wildlife field is so competitive, and also, you travel so much. I'm very, very fortunate to have a full-time station here in southern New Mexico. I know I'm very fortunate to have that.
That Jornada, right close to you.
Yeah, it's really nice. I'm a rat guy. I'm a desert rodents fan, big time.
Nice.
Yeah, so we do most of our, desert rodents are a really important kind of indicator species for the entire desert system. They rebound quickly when conditions are good, and they'll give you a quick kind of snapshot of what's going on out there based on the dynamics of a rodent population. So I love rats. They're sweet. They're such a cool animal. Chris hates rats, but they have a lot to tell us, and they're really cool. And the ones out in the desert are cute, and they don't bother you. So they're not like nasty sewer rats.
Yeah, and you failed me, Seth. I didn't get to hold one. So when I come back out, it's game on.
Definitely. I 100%. You came in the wrong time of year. They're not very active in the winter time. They're a larder hoarder, so they store tons of food underground. They work their butts off all fall, and then they essentially don't come above the surface except very rarely until about May. So
yeah, I'm just trying to avoid the poisonous snakes in conjunction with the holding the rats. So
our snake population's record low right now. So it's a good time for you.
Hello.
Good. Oh, we've got a new guy.
Hey, yeah, finally.
What are you doing, man? How's it going?
Yeah, it's good. How's everybody doing?
Good. We're just hanging out, chatting about rats. I got a fellow wildlife biologist around here, so I'm gonna save the listeners a bunch of dorkiness.
Well, I was trapping black-tailed deer out in Oregon.
Oh, that's fun. Little harder to wrestle than a rat.
Yes.
No, everything. Well, hey, I'm used to camp with wildlife biologists, so I know how that can go. But really, we're at in Oregon.
I worked out of Medford, and I was down Ashland and up around Crater Lake. Kind of skipped all around that country there.
Okay, I got you. I was just the last. I was just out there south of Klamath Falls.
Sure.
Around that Goose Lake.
Yep.
Gotcha.
Yep. Nice area out there.
Well, it was until all the fires started burning, and anyways, no, it was good. It was good while we were there, but definitely, yeah, a lot of that country, well, north of there is getting burned up, anyways.
I think you may be muted, Chris.
Hey, that's not a bad thing.
He is.
I'm not muted now. All right.
Let's keep.
I was letting the conversation roll.
I was watching your mouth move, but nothing was happening.
Yeah. All right. So we got a good segue here into our first topic, and I want to talk about. we're gonna just start this whole point blank deal off with. First of all, let's lay out a point blank. So we take a few topics and we discuss topics of the day, and it's light and it's fun. And Lauren, what are you drinking?
Well, this
is a Busch
whiskey. It's not a Busch Light today. It's whiskey, spicy ginger, and orange cocktail. It's made by a company called Two Chicks. So I'm just being super feminist here today.
How progressive.
Yeah. No, I saw the can. I was like, oh, that's pretty, and it has whiskey in it. So all right. It's leftovers from my week-long vacation in the North Woods.
Yeah. Seth, what you got in front of you?
It's not what I'm drinking, it's what is containing it that is so special here today. I'm drinking decaf coffee because coffee is delicious and I don't need to be up till midnight tonight.
And you don't need caffeine.
No, he does not.
Only in the early morning if it's a really boring kind of plant survey day. Otherwise, no, I'm good. But it's a mug that's covered in real pictographs of jackrabbits that were taken from Native American sites all over New Mexico and parts of Arizona. So it's pretty rad. I wish everyone had a webcam right now. I should. This should be the banner of our episode.
You take
right?
a picture.
No,
you take a picture of it, and we'll see if we can post it. So
The amount.
I'll tell you what we don't need. We don't need you on caffeine is what we don't need. So yeah, but hey,
I pretty much lived around him for like a month and a half, 2 months, and I mean I can agree.
yeah.
Says the person who I had to drive your truck back in the middle of the night. Well, I guess that was skunking, but
That was because of the skunks.
yeah.
What do you got in front of you, Mark?
An air conditioner.
An air conditioner. Yeah, no doubt. Same here. How about you, Shorty?
That's
Let me
about
guess.
Hey, you know me. If it's gonna be drank, it's gonna be Coors Rocky Mountain product. I'm on the Coors Light again.
Silver bullet.
You know what? You know what, Shorty? The first time I went to Texas, I was at this like line dancing bar, and we were like hanging out with a bunch of guys, trying to make friends, trying to get us to buy drinks, and they had their own beer koozies, and the guy's like, "Oh, I got koozie for my Coors," and I'm like, "What? Like, was that English?" And it's like, "Yeah, koozie for my Coors." And like 4 times later, I was like, "Oh, a koozie for your Coors Light, Coors Light."
Yeah, no. Well, hey, down here we drink them fast enough. We don't need koozies. So.
Well, I've been canning corn all day, and this was the byproduct of my canning corn.
Awesome.
What's that look like?
White lightning, son.
Little corn in a jar right here.
There you go.
You
I
got
got
it.
family in Kentucky. I know what moonshine looks like. They send us back some all the time.
Forget
Wine.
that song, "Rain makes corn, corn makes whiskey."
That's right.
Rain makes corn and Chris make moonshine.
And the Houndsman XP podcast.
Yeah, I better lay off that or we won't be making any podcasts. So, hey, our first topic of discussion, Mark Dufresne, you set this up with your message today about bizarre encounters with wildlife. So I'm going to let you lead the show on this, Mark. Tell us about your most bizarre encounter with wildlife.
Well, I don't know. I guess I've had a few, but one that was pretty laughable, I guess, was when I was working out in Oregon. We were trapping the black-tailed deer, and we used a modified clover trap, which, just simple explanation, it's like a pipe frame with a nylon mesh around it, and then a set of ropes, kind of like tent stakes that hold it down. You can collapse it to get the deer's head out, and basically you bait the trap. And then once he's in there, the gate drops, and you collapse it down on him and pull his head out. You can collar him and ear tag him and do all that. And we had some volunteers with us from the Forestry Service, a couple of young ladies there that were helping out. And we had a pretty large buck caught, and he was in velvet, and his antlers were kind of tied up, so I had to lift the trap partially up to get his head out from under the gate. And when I did that, he managed to squirt out, and unfortunately I happened to be standing right in front of him, and he went right between my legs. And when he stood up, I found out that my short, fat little legs just about touched on one side and then the other, and down the hill we went, and I was backwards. And we went about 200 yards before I come off of the back of him, but that was probably as close to bull riding as I've ever come.
That's a pretty good ride, isn't it, Shorty?
Yeah, hell yeah. I mean, I don't know how I'm gonna save you, but hell, shit, get after it.
I was gonna say, I just imagine Shorty running
I didn't know whether
around.
to let go or hold on or scream or what. I just kind of grabbed the tail and rode him down.
That's awesome.
What made you let go? Did you ever let go?
I honestly can't really remember how it ended, except I was on my back looking up at the sky, sucking air. So I'm not sure if I hit something or he shook me off or what happened.
Well, of course he had to let go, Lauren. He's not going to ride it forever.
Well, I wanted to know, the scenario there.
Shorty, have you ever?
It was a very steep hill, and I was backwards on it, so I couldn't even see where I was going. Was the worst part of it. So I didn't know I didn't dare let go for fear of going over into some rocks or what, and I ended up on the ground though sooner or later.
Yeah, Shorty, have you ever heard a story like that where you don't know how the ride ended? You get a cowboy off the dirt and they don't know how the ride ended. They don't remember.
Probably, I get, but typically, trying to find a way out is the worst scenario. Like, just ride it till it dies. It's like when you're looking for a way to save yourself, that's when you usually get hurt.
I didn't know if you were talking about bull riding or my college days, but
that could probably go all the way.
Moving along. Shorty, what's your most bizarre encounter with wildlife?
I don't know what the most bizarre is, but one of the most memorable was the guy. There was actually a rodeo clown, and I will mention his name because he doesn't care. His name's Robbie Hodges, and he had gone on a cat hunt with me, and we caught a cat, and I said, hey, take as many pictures as you want to, whatever, videos, do what you want to do. He's on social media and whatnot, and I said, hey, I'll do whatever you want to do, and when you're done, let me know. I want to see if I can get this cat to jump out and run again. And okay. So he does his thing, and it takes a few minutes, and when it's all said and done, he said, hey, I'm done. I said, okay, well, come over here with me. I'm gonna see if I can get this cat to jump out again. He said, no, I'll just hang out right here. I said, no, come over here with me. No, shit, I'll just hang out right here and watch. I said, okay. Well, I knew exactly what was going to happen. So, anyways, I get this cat to jump out, and it literally, jumps right in his lap. and I can still, to this day, see this guy, dancing around trying to get away from this damn, and the screams, and he's just like, ah! And
now, were the dogs on top of him?
That's when it gets sporty.
Instantly, this cat jumps right in his lap, and then, in, a quarter of a second, the dogs are there, and he's still, the coolest part about it was, 10 seconds later, everybody's gone, but he still thinks the cat's trying to attack him, and it was so fun. I laughed for days about that crap, and he had no idea You knew he was going to. I said, well, I tried to tell you to come over here. Anyways.
Did he have any claw marks in him?
No, he didn't.
No
he
souvenirs.
Thought he had 100 of them.
Yeah.
He thought he had 100 of them.
Lauren, what you got?
Yeah.
I've got, I guess I could talk about the bear that I almost wore as a top hat.
That was a pretty cool story.
Well, I definitely, I learned my lesson, and then it was a learning experience. So we had to go through a big swamp, neck deep in the water to get to this bear tree, and that bear tree happened to be a tree that my friend got proposed to under a couple weekends ago.
Same tree?
Same tree as that proposal tree.
Huh. Wow.
Fascinating.
So, yeah, she can tell that story another time. But, everything happened, and then we're kind of like all there taking pictures, and everybody's all happy. And I'm kind of at the base of the tree, and I'm taking pictures of Ben and Allie looking at the bear, because I'm like, I want to get them, romantic, but also looking at the bear, whatever, cool. And I am just not paying attention at all, because honestly, I am so used to bears going up trees and staying up trees. And apparently in that neck of the woods of Wisconsin, A, the bears really like to run and barely like to tree, and B, if they do tree, they're big-time bailers, big-time bailing bears. Say that 3 times fast. So I'm there with my phone taking pictures, and this bear is coming down, and I think I hear it in my, with my ears, but it just doesn't register. And they, slow motion, I see it, them, yelling at me, and, the fear of God are in their eyes. And they're like, Lauren, watch out! And I actually have a picture of them yelling at me with their hands pointed up. And that bear was probably 3 feet from me coming down, and it came down and jumped right off and bailed. So I learned to be a little bit more self-aware in that situation. I've also had a monkey jump on my head. Was
Was it wildlife?
Yeah, it wasn't in a zoo.
Oh, you're a world traveler.
Yeah, that happened in Costa Rica. I think in 2008 when I was studying abroad there. It was just a bunch of us girls hanging out, not even knowing what the world was at that point, walking around some little town in Costa Rica trying to find a place to eat or go to happy hour when we're under 21 and can't drink in the States. And we're walking down and we're all happy, and all of a sudden this monkey jumps from the power line or the roof of a house and lands on my head and tries to take my glasses. And it didn't get away with my glasses. I screamed and shoved my hands up really quick, and it jumped off.
We need to put the webcam up. Just that part right there where you're trying to shoot off your head even to this day.
Get a literal monkey off your back.
Yeah. And I ended up with my glasses like this, half taken off my face, barely hanging on. And I think it's called a squirrel monkey or something like that. There's not a lot of them left in the world. So an endangered or something kind of species monkey landed on my head in Costa Rica.
And you're trying to punch him off your back. They're endangered, and here you are not letting him have your glasses. That's messed up.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, I got a couple thoughts on that one, Lauren. One is the bear deal. It reminds me of guys that get talked in, people that get talked into climbing their first mountain lion tree. And as they're climbing up, the lion just releases his bladder all over him and pees all over him. So the whole time you were telling that story, I was thinking, man, it's a good thing it wasn't huckleberry season in Wisconsin or blueberry season, and it didn't just release its whole bow right on top.
All over
oh my gosh, that'd been horrible.
Oh man.
Yeah.
I saw that happen to a young kid one time with blackberry season here in Maine, and he had his mouth open looking up that tree, and even the dogs moved. The dogs even moved, and he never saw it coming.
That's-
he was covered.
Oh.
That's way more bizarre than riding a blacktail backwards down a mountain. It's got more shock value, that's for sure. Gee whiz.
That's for sure.
Woo!
I can smell it from here. We did actually walk over part of like the boggy island in that swamp getting to the tree, like between clear fresh water that we'd go through. We did see bear scat. And I was like, and it was, there was berries and like it was, you know, I was like, oh, well, that bear just actually swims the water just to the middle of boggy islands. Good to know.
Yeah, Mark, I don't know you well, but it's got to go without saying that I know why you didn't talk about that story is because getting covered in animal fluids is just like an everyday occurrence for us. Like,
It's normal. I mean, it's happened many times.
I've had rat
I'm really not
diarrhea.
even thinking that was that special.
Exactly.
And here I am. I don't get mad when toads pee on me when I pick them up.
Yeah.
When you pick up like a wood rat, which is like a desert pack rat, their first instinct is to release their bowels and bladders and roll in it to make themselves as disgusting as possible. And so immediately in our nets, they're just this diarrhea and urine soaked little rat. He just looks like eyeballs coming out of caked on diarrhea, and he's just like hissing at you, and his teeth are bared. And I'm just like, another day, just grab him. Like,
Do you wear gloves?
I do wear gloves.
Yeah. Don't need to
Definitely.
get another case of diphtheria. Wow. Seth, what do you got for most bizarre wildlife encounter? This is going to be epic.
Honestly,
Don't let us
like,
down.
Well, bizarre. Okay, so one time we were hilarious. I don't know. Bizarre is a hard one, but hilarious. I laughed so hard I fell down to my knees crying, which is rare. But one time we were rodent trapping. We had this new guy, and he was an experienced rodent handler, so we weren't worried about it. But he had this big, aggressive wood rat, and we're talking like a 400-gram wood rat, which doesn't seem that big, but that's like a small guinea pig. And that thing has some serious fangs and a terrible attitude. And he grabbed it in the net, and when he tagged it in the ear, he set it down to let it go, and it immediately ran up his leg. So instead of 99.9% of them running away, he ran straight up his leg. So he's like punching himself in the leg, trying to stop this rabid, enraged guinea pig from like running up his leg. And it runs all the way up into his boxers. Okay. So he's like punching himself in the
Mississippi squirrel revival right here.
And then my friend, the guy, I'm going to keep him nameless because he still works with us. He just locks up in terror and he's like, guys, he's against my nuts. And I was like, no. I'm dying. I'm rolling on the ground. I'm laughing. He's in terror. He looks like a deer caught in the headlights. Just his eyes are this big. He's just frozen in terror standing there. Finally, he just takes his pants off and the rat takes off running. But I just remember the look. He's like, guys, he's by my nuts.
He just wanted a snack, right?
Oh, and the worst thing is, guys, imagine a diarrhea-covered rat all over your nuts. Like, that's the worst thing.
Wow.
The worst thing.
Wow.
So anyway, yeah. So that's the hazards of working with
This
rats.
conversation is going downhill fast.
Man, I should have
Real
filtered.
quick.
I should have filtered this out before we got started.
You
Oh, my
asked.
word.
You told me not to hold back.
Oh
I
my
got
goodness.
by some javelina last year, and that was pretty crazy. Everyone always talks about how dangerous they are, and I think unless they have babies, their reputation is vastly overblown. They are very aggressive to dogs. They'll chase dogs all the time, but with people, I've come up on them. Even with offspring, they always run. But I was hunting javelina last year, and I was in this tiny wash with steep banks on each side, and I had a javelina in distress call on my phone. And so I'm hunting with a flintlock. I got one shot, and I'm walking through this crazy thicket where I know the javelina are. I got the wind in my face, all this wind behind me, and I hit the call in my pocket after I just stop and cock my flintlock. The second the call goes off in my pocket, the brush explodes behind me. Javelinas start running directly towards me because I got the sound of a baby javelina squealing in my pocket. And you always imagine yourself being some kind of like badass safari hunter and holding your ground. immediately I just ran away. Like screaming guttural sounds of terror as I just run up the hill with 3 of them chasing me.
You didn't lose your bowels or anything, did you?
No,
like
I should have though. I should have though as a defense mechanism, but no, I just ran going, hey, as I just like ran up the mountain. But anyway,
now I would have been impressed if you released your bowels and rolled in it to instantly, become less palatable to the javelinas.
Seth wants to become one with nature, so I think you need to work up to that, Seth. I want to see it happen. I don't want to see it.
If I ever get in a bar fight, that's 100% what I'm gonna do, dude.
100%. In a prison fight where you use your prison name.
That's it, dude. Yes, exactly.
But Chris.
Anyway,
Mr. Retired Game Warden, I'm sure you've got a couple up your sleeve, but what takes the cake?
There is nothing as entertaining as what Seth just talked about. Oh my gosh. That's crazy stuff right there.
Right. I want to know Lauren said use your prison name. What's your prison name?
It changes all the time.
What's your latest one?
Okay.
What is my latest one, Lauren? Gosh, it's been so long.
I don't know. Was yours Death Roll or was
No,
mine?
that was yours, dude.
Oh, okay.
I couldn't remember mine. I don't know, guys. It has to come organically. You can't just force a prison name.
Yeah, but you should have this rehearsed.
I don't go to prison. I'm a good guy.
You might be.
But we do talk about prison names in some of our other podcasts.
Go back and listen.
That's like a Patreon giveaway or something. If somebody can come up with Seth's prison name, we'll send you a hat.
Honestly, even if you guys come up with the wrong prison name, as long as it's a really good one, we'll send you a hat anyway.
Embroidered custom hat.
Yeah, no kidding. No kidding.
And we'll come up with your prison name to embroider on the hat.
Oh my good. I don't know if I can pull that off. Don't be over promising.
Yes, exactly. It's got to be organic. Chris, save us.
Oh my gosh. Well, there were quite a few of those crazy wildlife related calls. It seems like we're always the ones that get those calls when people encounter crazy stuff with wildlife. I mean, they pick up the phone and call 911, and then who else to send? Let's send the game warden. And so there were a few. I mean, I've had live deer in cars and went through the windshield of cars and different things and people bailing. But probably the craziest one is like our state parks and our state reservoirs are just like mini cities on the weekends. And all these people come out and they're getting back to nature and enjoying, roughing it around the campfire right outside their $50,000 RV. But every once in a while, you get people that just come out and they tent camp. And of course, we have tons of raccoons around our state properties, and these people were sitting around the campfire at night, and it's not unusual. I mean, I've seen it multiple times. Raccoons just lurking in the shadows, waiting for a buttered pretzel bite or a roasted marshmallow or a half a hot dog or whatever. And so this lady was feeding raccoons out of a bag of buttered pretzels, and she absolutely she was just enjoying herself and all this stuff. Well, she got bored and the raccoons ran off for a few minutes, and she turned around and she put the bag of pretzels on the picnic table. And after a while, she got tired and decided to go to bed, and she walks in her tent. She crouches down with her little headlamp on and goes into her tent where she had left her toddler in a sleeping bag, who had gone to bed earlier, in a little mini sleeping bag, a little Snoopy sleeping bag laying there. And as she enters the tent, she looks over, and there's a mama raccoon with 3 kittens with a bag of buttered pretzels in the middle of them that were completely passed out, totally went into a pretzel coma around this 2-year-old toddler laying on a sleeping bag. And she didn't even know whether to try to reach in and get her kid or just call us. And so we were working the property that night and got there. And this mother raccoon was now guarding the 2-year-old toddler, probably more like she was guarding her kittens. But it appeared that she was guarding this toddler from all evil in the world. Dang. That's probably one of the craziest little wildlife calls I ever got. But how did it end? How did it end? Just reached in and grabbed the kid, folded up the tent, and made life very unpleasant inside the tent for the raccoons. But it's pretty safe to say that they probably never used that tent again because it was full of pepper spray by the time we were done.
Oh man!
I'm glad they could get the kid out without Mama somehow going to attack it.
Yeah, no, it's like she had it was the strangest thing. She just moved in there with a bag of buttered pretzels and was
just great.
Just sitting there with there wasn't a care in the world. I don't care if you're here. I'm eating buttered pretzels.
Heck yeah.
I had to beat raccoons off with a log from a backpack while I was on the beach in Costa Rica because these guys will get a foot from you, and you've got your backpack, and you've got a loaf of bread and peanut butter and jelly packed in there, and they know that tourist bags have food. So for probably 45 minutes, I was beating off a clan of Costa Rican raccoon from my backpack with this bread and then a jar of peanut butter and a jar of jam that I had to rely on to eat. That was my only food that I had budgeted for half a week.
Your food was right there. Just grab a coon and.
Yeah.
Hey, Mark, did you ever do any small carnivore trapping?
Oh, just I think we did a little. I'm trying to remember if I can remember back. The Zappus and Sonicus, is that the meadow white-footed jumping? I can't even remember. Jumping mouse something. Just I did a little bit.
Okay, what'd you guys do with all the skunk blankets?
We got lucky. We didn't have to deal with any of that.
Oh my gosh. Our skunk blankets were on the back of our truck in a plastic bag. And one day we had to take our truck in for service. And we were like, guys, whatever you do not open that bag. And we left. We came back hours later to pick up our truck, and those guys are gagging all over the place. And that whole garage reeked. And they were like, we opened the bag. And I was like, why did you open the bag? The whole garage just reeked of skunk. It was hilarious. We were loving it. They weren't.
I know what that smells like.
Yeah, yes, no kidding. Did you put the collars in the dishwasher?
No. Thank you for the reminder, though. Cedar still smells really bad, and it's not her Garmin collar. Well, it probably is, but I don't care about that one. I care about the one she wears all the time. So, yeah, next load. The red collar's going in.
Oh, man.
Jeez. That's disgusting. All right. Well, we got the mood set.
I'm not eating dinner at your house, Lauren.
No kidding.
I was going to say, ugh.
It's all sanitized in the end, it gets so hot.
That's what everybody thinks. All right, let's talk about our topics for the night besides this one. That should get everybody loosened up for the mood of this podcast. But Lauren, we're going to shift gears a little bit, and we're going to talk about something a little more serious, and that is wolf depredation in Wisconsin on hunting dogs. You've been tracking this thing, and you're the resident expert on this for us.
Well, resident expert, but not overall expert. Let's lay the law down there.
Don't be humble. Just spit it out.
Yeah. Honestly, today I have been super fired up and really kind of on edge and anxious and angry and happy and everything all at once. So honestly, having that.
So a normal day for Lauren Brandon.
Sounds like a normal day for a woman.
I was going to say.
Wow. Wow.
I was thinking it, but I wasn't going to say it.
I knew Shorty would say it.
You know what, though? I like to joke about myself like that. Like I take that and I'm totally okay laughing with it and going with it. So, Chris knows I don't really wear my heart on my sleeve and all that. So anyway, wolves, let's go back there. Hot topic in Wisconsin, hot topic across the nation, especially the way the media have spun it. And it's an international news type thing too. So, crazy stuff happening here. So we had that February hunt, and now bear training season has started. It started July 1st, and we have started to see that depredation go up. What's funny is...
Well, tell us what depredation is. I mean, that was the politically correct term.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's wolves killing, attacking, maiming, harassing wildlife. It's kind of the full way that I look at it. Depredation is the actual kill, but there are instances of wolf harassment, wolf injury. Every dog that has an encounter with a wolf, the majority of them are not going to make it, but there are some that do, pets included. And so there's a report that comes out, and it's not always, it's just not consistently updated at the same time. It's not always up to date. So we might be back a week, back 2 weeks. I don't know where to start with this. I mean, I guess, what questions do you want me to answer? What do you want me to go over, Chris?
Well, I think just give us a general overview of what's going on up there, with the wolf depredation and how threatened not only our hounds are, but also the domestic farmers and things like that. The numbers you're spitting out probably don't even include the depredation on livestock from wolves in the last month.
No, I'm getting a lot of reports just personally to me about depredations, and not everything is also getting reported to the DNR, and there's reasons for that.
Why do you think that is? Why?
Well, we don't want wolf patrolling around us where they know, okay, well, a lot of wolf problems are happening here. That means, okay, well, we need to go to this county. We need to go to this section. Because when a depredation report comes out, there is a dot put on a map with a caution zone around it, and you can see that and you can look for it, and that does help us hunters be aware and be able to hunt smarter, and that's something I do want to cover a little bit later. But it also is, radar on the map to those that don't agree with our lifestyle. So starting this year, there have been actual confirmed kills on a pet in January, a pet injured in January, harassment in February of a pet, killed pet in April, May, a pet killed later in May. And then when training season started, the first depredation that happened that was reported was a 6-year-old walker dog on July 9th. Then another hunting dog killed on July 18th. Another hunting dog killed July 30th. August 6th. August 7th, there was a hunting dog killed and a hunting dog injured. 2 hunting dogs injured. On August 8th, 1 hunting dog killed. And that's only what we've gotten so far on the actual report. I've been fed more information personally from individuals that there's been more. And it's really hard and it's really sad. And I know some people have seen differences in where they were able to harvest a lot of wolves. I've gotten personal stories saying, well, we've seen a difference, where we've been running bear, that we don't see as many wolf sign. But obviously where that wolf population is really high, Bayfield County being one of it, there's obviously still big problems. And it's really sad to hear about people's dogs being killed. And it's people that are just going about daily life doing what we've been doing for years and hunting smart and these things are happening. And that's because the wolf population is just so exponentially grown over time, and it is where it is now, that this conflict is going to happen. And when I posted on my Facebook page that this week's depredation report is going to hit hard, and people are going to be saddened, frustrated, whatever kind of feeling you want to feel about it, I was met with a lot of support, and then I was also met with people that didn't give any F's about it, and they were pretty angry, saying, well, you know, there's that risk you take. And I agree.
Yep. Mark, you got any thoughts on that?
Oh, I think it's an absolute mess. You know, we've here in Maine, there's been a little bit of a push occasionally to reintroduce the wolves, and you know, we have had some wolves that are killed that travel down in from Canada, but we're lucky here; we don't have to deal with it. I think the world of my dogs. I can't imagine, you know, going out there and having to risk getting them killed by wolves. It would infuriate me personally. I don't know. I can't even imagine it.
Shorty, what do you say?
Well, you know, I think it's a risk that's not going away.
Right.
We're all gonna have to face this someday. Even in the West, you know, the guys in the East have had to face it sooner than we have, but it's a growing concern in the West. There's wolves in New Mexico. There's wolves in Arizona. There's now wolves in California,
Colorado,
Oregon, Colorado. So, but the thing is, like, we're just gonna have to adapt, and that's just a fact. Like whether you love it or hate it, like we are gonna have to adapt as houndsmen and go and, you know, if you strike a track, or if you find a track, or however you find a track, like, go make a circle and see what's in your country. Like, see is there a wolf in the area? If there's not, go ahead and turn loose on it. But the days of just free casting or however you're finding your tracks and just letting the hounds go, you know, I mean, I'm not saying they're over, but it may be wise to go find a track and then go make a little loop and find out if there's a wolf in your area. And, you know, maybe a single wolf might not be a big concern, but if you find a pack of wolves, you might not want to turn out there. But I think it's something we're going to have to deal with, and love it or hate it, it's just the way it's going to be.
Well, I think most of the animosity comes about that the wolf has been so politicized, and there's a political motivation behind this effort to keep the wolf on the endangered species list, and that doesn't sit well with houndsmen in general. You know, 2 years ago in the Swan Valley, we only turned loose on one track. I think we only turned loose on one track in 5 days of hunting, because every other track we found did exactly what you said, Shorty. We made a circle. We found wolves crossing in to the area that the lion track was headed, so we opted not to turn loose. And that's a hard thing for houndsmen to accept.
Well, it's really hard in Wisconsin.
Yeah, and I'll play the devil's advocate here a little bit, just for a second. You know, there's a risk every time we turn a hound loose. You know, in Indiana, in Ohio, in Illinois, and, you know, this coon dog hotbed, every time we turn a dog loose, we run the risk of having one hit on the road. But we're not asking people to stop driving cars. if you turn loose in Louisiana to hog hunt anytime beside maybe January and early, through February, you run the risk of getting a hound eaten and killed by an alligator. But people still hog hunt. But here's the problem. I've spent a lot of time thinking about this. The thing that is so frustrating for us as hound hunters is this is something, if you're a hog hunter in Louisiana, Mississippi, any of those coastal countries or states down there, you understand and you grew up with those risks, and it was part of hunting. But this is completely different. This is something that has been
new.
It's new, and it's been forced on people.
Right.
Seth?
I mean, I'm just going to listen mostly because this is never going to be an issue for me because, my dogs will never encounter a wolf, and if they do, a wolf can't catch them. So, and I don't mean that in like a snarky
You're
way.
right.
I mean that in a dead serious way. Like, if a wolf was like, I want to eat this weird, nasty-looking dog, my dogs would be like, I'm just going to jog and get away from you. So, and we're there with them always. Our dogs never leave our sight. So it's a thing, but I don't have much to weigh in because the whole Mexican wolf, it's a whole different situation, and our culture here is a lot different. The politics is a nightmare, and that's why I absolutely refuse to get into any work with wolves. I never wanted to. It's just, to me, it's a non-starter because it just brings out the worst in both sides. It really does, and so it's really hard to be a mediating voice, which I always want to be. And man, it is tough. And I agree with Shorty, and again, I don't have any dogs in this battle, but they're coming naturally because the way we use the land is totally different now. Even if they're reintroduced into certain areas, they're going to eventually make their way on their own. Now,
everywhere.
The sad thing is it's so politicized. You know what I mean? If they were treated like bears or lions, it would be no problem. You could manage them to the level of the population.
That's the
that
issue right there.
Yeah.
That's
it. I'm 100%
Mm-hmm.
pro wolf hunting. 100%. We hunt mountain lions. New Mexico has tons of mountain lions. We hunt bears. New Mexico has tons of bears. We can have wolves, keep them at a level that's socially acceptable, and have plenty of wolves alive. Same thing goes for the feral horse. I don't understand why we can't have the North American game model for a feral horse. Same concept. So, keeping them on the...
You can't hunt Flicka.
Yeah, but you're talking about a socially acceptable level. And that's kind of like a debate, too.
Yeah, it is. But the thing is that when is anything in life not a debate, right? You're always going to have to compromise with people on anything. It's rarely your way or the highway. And so that's the nightmare of wildlife biologists. Mark, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, that's what infuriates me about it is the fact that the science doesn't matter in these debates and arguments. The politics of it have really taken hold, and that's what's driving it. And that's the real problem is what needs to be done. Everybody knows what needs to be done. It's simple. Everybody can see what needs to be done, but you can't get it done because of the politics.
There you go.
Yes.
So
Go ahead, Lauren.
So when Chris is talking about the risk, and a lot of houndsmen, I'm kind of the unpopular opinion here that I know that this wolf problem is not going away. We can't do the whole no wolves thing, kill them all. It's just never going to happen. So you have to accept that, and I accept that risk. However, I will accept that risk better when that population is actually managed correctly and not allowed to get to the point where it has right now. Because obviously that risk goes down the less wolves you have.
Well, you're in the hotbed of it right now, Lauren. And today there was a natural resources board meeting that
I listened to it for 4 hours.
Yeah. So give us an update of what Wisconsin is kicking around and what was debated today. Give us some insight.
So the major topic of discussion was the DNR's recommendation to have a quota of 130 wolves taken in the 2022 season, which starts in the fall.
Who proposed that number?
February.
Who
the
proposed
actual the DNR? This was Randy Johnson, the large carnivore specialist, along with the scientific people that make these models, and they were based on the minimum number of wolves, and they wanted to maintain the population, even though our current management plan does not call for that. So the DNR, I think, are against us to begin with, as we saw with the Evers administration and the DNR not allowing a hunt until Hunter Nation and Luke Hilgeman sued them. And it was proven that they were breaking the law, and Wisconsin does mandate a hunt as long as the wolf is in delisting status. So what happened today is that was proposed, and of 130, and then the board pretty much gets to hear how they came up with that number and why they're thinking that. And then there was public comment for I don't know how many hours, but I think it was 55 public comment before that. We were allowed to, each person had 2 minutes. Some went over, some were under. And we were allowed to supply public comment, which I posted on my Facebook prior to that. So I submitted my own comments and everything for them to see. So I listened to 55 people give public comment, and what's really sad is the majority of them were either at a 0 quota, I'm going to cry about it, I don't want the wolves killed, or one was 31 wolves. Some were 504. There was 400. There was 350. And it was pretty funny because there were some members, a lot of members of the board, I will have to say, they remained very professional. And I enjoyed that the questions that they were asking and all that. But the secretary was very unprofessional. He started to throw a tantrum. He pouted like a child. And he's part of the opposition, and they just can't deal with the fact that we're coming against them with actual science and saying, hey, guess what? It's proven that the tribes are not going to be taking their part of the quota as part of the treaty deal. So we know that X amount of wolves aren't going to be taken. Even if our quota is 130, that means state hunters get 70 wolves total. So
really that whole number came out of politically motivated stuff.
Yeah, and there was discussion about, oh, well, we can't make it too high because then we're going to get the Fish and Wildlife Services, starting to question us and all that stuff because of the federal status.
Lauren, what was the wolf quota for 2020? For the year 2020?
200 wolves, and we harvested 216. We went over by 9%.
But wasn't there a higher number that was kicked around prior to the quota being sent based on the science? Wasn't it like 1,100?
That's the total population. So they had like a what the prior count method.
I thought the total population was around 3,000 in Wisconsin.
I personally think it's closer to that, but the minimum count method that the DNR used prior to this new method that they're going to be using was between 900 and 1,100, I want to say, wolves. So
Mark,
that's what you were thinking was the total population.
Mark, you got something?
No, just these models and stuff that they use. It's just frustrating. Sometimes, in the wildlife field, what the trend is that I saw more and more is less people with real life experience and more book trained people. Mm-hmm. And, these people need to get out in the field, and they need to go out there with these coyote hunters, with the cat hunters in the winter. And they need to really see what's out there, and there, there's flaws. You're going to have mistakes on these numbers, and they have allowances for, information and whatnot, but until you get out there and you see it, you're not going to really know. And people just don't do that anymore. Less and less of it all the time. They want to rely on these models, and then 10 years later, well, we found that model was flawed by 15%, so we're going to use this model, and 10 years later they find that model's flawed. It's very frustrating.
Well, and the problem in Wisconsin is the volunteers that they're using to do this wolf tracking are pro-wolf, don't want any wolves killed people. So what do you think they're going to do the population?
Oh, my
Keep
God.
it low.
They're going to lowball it. You know,
Yep.
Dude, I can't even... Science done with volunteer. Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
I mean, citizen data compilation can have its value, I suppose, but not on a hot button topic like that. Come on. Oh,
no, isn't that crazy to think about? I mean, you and I can just see the problems with that right away.
I mean, the point of methodology is to avoid bias, and it's like when you're starting off on a pogo stick of bias, I'm just over here like cringing. You know what I mean? It's not like it's not like we're sampling birds. You know,
who funded the study? You know, that's the thing when you get into
ding 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 ding
Yep.
ding ding.
All the money.
Yep.
That's right. That's right.
You know, you get into this civilian collection of data, voluntary. Who's footing the bills?
I mean,
for that
it's
person
not.
To be doing
I mean,
that?
obviously, it's not all civilians, and it's not all, volunteer people that are from a bias. But there is a problem there, obviously.
An animal like that is really tough to sample for. I will say, in the defense of trained like biologists and professionals, a large ranging apex carnivore like that, they are tough to sample for. I mean, they're hard to see. They're not like an elk where you can fly over in a helicopter and get a more or less accurate view of what's going on down there, because they're small, they're smart, they're sneaky, and they don't like to be seen. So it is tough to get an accurate, unless you're putting down tons of money, tons of hours, and lots of technicians on the ground who know what they're doing, all of which is hard to come by. It's tough. So I will say, admittedly, that can be very hard. But trust me when I say, and Mark, I know you know I'm right when I say there is armies of technicians that would love to get in on a wolf sampling project. So it can be done.
Yeah, but you can fly over them in helicopters and shoot them.
I mean, you can. You can.
Alaska does it. Alaska does it. They do aerial gunning for wolves, but the terrain's completely different. I understand that. You know,
my gosh.
comparing the Alaska tundra
forestry cover and everything else, right?
To Wisconsin. I mean, it's not even comparable.
And the people.
Yeah.
So keep in mind with this 130 number that the DNR put out, and that was to quote unquote maintain the population, which we know 130 wolves is not going to maintain the population. It's still going to allow it to expand. They voted. And 300 was the quota that they came up with, so state hunters will be allowed about 160 wolves in the end, if this goes through. So,
what kind of roadblocks do you see coming up with that 300 proposed number?
The federal delisting. There's a meeting, like 2 weeks or something like that after our season starts in November. Now, that season that starts in November, you're not using hounds. That's pretty much all for trappers and, like, e-collars. Like, not collars that you wear around your neck, but people that use e-calls. And then hound running will start, in the snow after all the deer season's done. December.
Okay. So what are you hearing on the ground in Wisconsin that houndsmen should be doing now to try to make sure that wolves are managed properly in the state of Wisconsin?
Not a whole lot, and that's kind of the reality of it. And the sad part.
Well, you said that this number's been proposed. What's the next step? Who makes this decision? Sure. Okay.
I'm not sure, and I didn't get that far. I know that kind of the NRB is the final say in it.
Well, let me give you my perspective on it. The NRB might think they're the final say on it, but if
Right.
Houndsmen will contact their elected representatives in these rural areas and put pressure on politically from that side. The NRB is more than likely a politically appointed board, and they answer to somebody, and that is usually the governor's office. And elected representatives and state senators have amazing power to sway governor's offices. So my recommendation is for houndsmen who are hearing these numbers that want to make sure that it goes through to contact your state senators and your state representatives today, not tomorrow, not next week, not when you get tired of running bears. Today, you make contact with them and say, we want the wolves managed.
Yeah. Well,
Squeaky wheel gets the grease.
That's the thing about it, though, is we as a community are being so reactive. And what I saw in this meeting is they're talking about, oh, well, the majority of the people were saying, 0% and zero this and blah, 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 and everybody was against it. And then they're talking about the comments that they've gotten, the letters that they've got in their hand at this meeting, the board members, saying, the majority is, one way or the other. Well, it's the other way. It's not our way. So we need to be more proactive about it. And, I can only do so much. Oh, no.
No. I was just reacting to Seth's video webcam there.
Oh,
man.
I thought you hated my comment about being proactive.
No. Any final thoughts? I mean, Seth, you've been holding your tongue.
No, I've honestly just enjoyed listening.
Okay.
I can hear Lauren's fiery passion.
Yeah.
So
she's been on point. She's been on point
really?
on this thing. I mean,
absolutely.
If you guys want to keep up to date on wolf stuff in Wisconsin, then you need to follow Lauren on social media, both Instagram and Facebook.
Yeah. What I'll say about Facebook, Instagram is public. Facebook, if you're going to friend me and I have not met you in person, send me a message because I'm not going to accept your friendship because there's so many weirdos and anti-hunters out there that I'm not just going to, accept friendship with somebody with a dog in their picture. So.
Yep. Shorty, you got any final thoughts on that?
Well, no, but I kind of through the grapevine heard, and maybe Lauren will know more about this. Is there any news on running hounds in Idaho for wolves?
Oh my!
I think Chris might have more information on that. Fun fact, though, you can train on wolves year-round in Wisconsin. Should you so choose.
Really?
I will not choose. Yeah. Just like coyotes. I mean, coyotes you can hunt year-round, but wolves you can train year-round. And there's one guy up in Neilsville that does it.
Wow.
I'm not saying that there's more, but yeah.
Yeah, as far as Idaho goes, I don't have any firsthand information that is being even talked about right now. I think that a lot of houndsmen in Idaho have resigned themselves to the fact that it can't be done because of the ruggedness of the country. However, there's probably some areas that it could be done. I've talked to different houndsmen out there about the possibilities of it taking place and the feasibility of it actually happening. And some of my most trusted friends in Idaho, they can't work it out in their mind. Every time I bring it up and I talk about it, they give me something, why it would not work. And
the thing about it is you're running lone wolves. We're picking out lone wolves in Wisconsin. And also, another fun fact, they do not count lone wolves in the Wisconsin total.
What does that mean? What does that mean?
That means that there's a lot of lone wolves out there that aren't getting counted into the population.
So how are they counting?
The population is a lot higher than what they are letting on.
So if I find a single set of wolf tracks, or I spot a single wolf, it is not going into the population count.
Correct, sir. And the fact that we killed lone wolves in the hunt, if they're not counting them in their population, then what impact did that actually have on the pack, on the total on the packs in Wisconsin? It should be nothing, right?
Interesting. And that could work for our advantage. You know, I mean, if you really look at it, like they're not counting the wolves that the houndsmen could handily kill a lone wolf. So let's not look at that as a bad thing.
Yeah. You know, another thing I was thinking too is that and the only thing I could really chime in there is that, you know, I would be very curious to see what the spread of sex of wolf killed, because if you're turning out on lone wolves, statistically speaking, I bet it's the majority of it young males, which is doing nothing
young
to control the population anyway.
Sure.
You know.
Right. Sure.
And
Absolutely.
So it makes perfect sense. I'm not turning out on a pack, and that's where the majority of the females are going to be. If you really want to control the population, that's where you go. So, you know, You could also argue that we're not even really inflicting much damage to the population if that data suggests, or, you know, reflected what I'm kind of suspecting, that if you're catching primarily young transient males, and if you're looking at it from just a modeling standpoint, I could see why they'd want to exclude solitary individuals from the overall count, because it's like, how do you know it's the same individual or a different individual that you're counting in those lone sets of tracks? And then also, like, young adolescent males that are transient don't really care about the population total because they're probably just going to leave the area. So, I mean, yeah, like a mountain lion, really.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. It's going to have very, very, very little effect on the overall population.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Well, let's shift gears. If nobody else has anything, well, this is our last topic we're going to talk about, and it was a hot topic while I was in Virginia this last week. Bear hunters in Virginia are very aware and very concerned about the outbreak of sarcoptic mange in the black bear population.
Huh.
And I haven't read a lot of the studies, but Virginia Fish and Wildlife has released different information about the outbreak in their population, and it's now being threatened. So from sarcoptic mange, and it was amazing to me to stand around. It would have been good tailgate talk material, Seth, talking about mange among bear hunters, because they're actually pretty well informed about the causes and the spread, and even more aware of the threat that it poses to the black bear population in the state of Virginia right now. And the reports are just rolling out. I mean, I saw pictures from just texted pictures of a roadkill bear that had mange, a bear on a bird feeder that had mange, a bear on a trail cam that had mange. I mean, these photos were all shared with me that weren't on social media. They were just being passed around the general public among bear hunters. So sarcoptic mange is caused by a mite. The Sarcoptes mite is what spreads mange. It burrows into the skin of the host and then ultimately causes dehairing and a lot of other health issues, and ultimately kills the host. So am I accurate there, Seth?
You're spot on the money. There's also the Demodex mange, which is caused by a different kind of mite, but same symptoms, presents itself more commonly in cats, but still in canids and bears as well. But yeah, you're right on the money.
Yep.
So do they actually have a percentage of fatality? Is there, because everything I've seen that I've read seems to be that they try to basically tell you that there's no known numbers of deaths caused. They said they can survive it, but I used to hunt in Rockingham County 10 years or so ago, hunted there many years, and that's where the first case showed up. Now, I know the bear hunters I talked with that still live there and hunt there, they said they can't even find a bear, and it used to be full of bears 10 years ago. And, they only treed a few bears last year, so they're really worried about it. But I haven't seen any actual information on fatalities from it, percentage of fatality or anything like that.
Yeah, me neither, honestly. And I was just trying to scour my brain for any of that data, because we're always sampling for rabies. That's the the big thing we're looking for.
Yeah.
And so I don't know, and I know in milder climates, sarcoptic animals can survive for quite a while. I mean, I've seen coyotes that are like bald, completely bald. So especially in South Texas, that's where like the chupacabra legends come from.
Oh yeah, hell yeah! I just saw one like 3 minutes ago.
You saw a chupacabra?
Chupacabra.
Yeah.
So, but I've always wondered that too. I assume it's a very high mortality rate. But I don't know.
So I've got a brochure up, and it doesn't mention any type of mortality rate, but it's got a map of like capture and sighting year by year of mange bears, and it says in the bottom of it says, although mange can cause mortality in the Virginia black bears, there's no evidence that the disease is currently limiting populations in any part of the state. Which, if it's killing
that's everything.
bears,
Right. Everything I've read, nobody seems to say that it's killing bears, but from all the bear hunters that I'm talking to, they are really saying that their bear numbers have been decimated by it. And those guys know where the bears are. They've hunted these places for years. Yeah.
Well, there's several things online about different studies and different things like that. Right now, the things that I've read is it's a prominent enough problem that there are different organizations from universities to nonprofits that are taking in captive bears and trying to figure out how to treat it with everything from ivermectin to what's the next one? What is that? Flora. It's what our flea and tick medicine is made out of. Flora something.
Patron.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fipronil. Yeah.
Yep. So like the problem with treating with ivermectin is it takes 2 doses to effectively treat for sarcoptic mites because you're only killing the adults with ivermectin. And I actually heard some pretty interesting remedies for that. One of them is using like a wick that we use for cattle around feeders and things like that for delousing cattle.
Yep.
But you soak that wick in ivermectin and you set up bait sites and you allow the bears to come and go and spread that ivermectin onto the hide and the fur. Like that. I don't know if that would be effective or not, but I thought it was. I mean, that tells me how much bear hunters are thinking about it in Virginia. When you get down to discussing the remedies,
I can tell you this: animals will figure out a way to take care of themselves, and if that works, they will use it. That's just that. You know what I mean? Like that's just Mother Nature. Like if you put something available to them at like a bait site or whatever, where they can go rub on it and it will actually relieve them of parasites, they will absolutely use it, and that's just Mother Nature.
The problem with that is that like where I'm pulling back is that the problem is when you make a communal area, you're actually doing probably more harm.
Then it's going to be worse.
Yeah. There you go. Okay.
Faster.
That's a good segue into I don't know what you're showing me, Lauren, but that's a good segue into my point, Seth, is communal. It's a transmitted communal mite from one host to another. And yet Virginia is constantly fighting the battle about their length of season and their number of bears that they can harvest. So we've got the liberals, the people that want to stop bear hunting because of the welfare of wildlife, but yet we're overrun with mange in Virginia because we don't want to kill bears.
No way.
Yeah.
Oh,
well, and what I was showing
politics
you is
and wildlife management.
Oh my gosh.
Oh boy.
There you go.
Yeah, and what I was showing you is that their wildlife, the DWR, will not be treating mange. Treated bears are reinfected with no improvement in resistance to mange. so that euthanizing is the most humane thing to do. So people are like,
oh wow,
crying
shit.
and
Okay, hey,
Yeah.
that's advocating for hunting.
Yeah, I
Right.
mean, it already was. Anyone with any kind of brain.
Right.
But
nature is way worse. I'll tell you that, guys, and I think all of us can understand that nature is a brutal, brutal beast.
That's exactly my comment this weekend around the tailgate, Lauren. You know, you've got all of these people that think they're making all these decisions for wildlife based purely on emotion. It's totally emotional based. There is no scientific base to their thinking at all, but they think that hunting is more cruel than a bear dying of exposure and a
terrible
horrible death from a sarcoptic mange outbreak than it is for them to... We've got it figured out. The North American model for wildlife conservation is a proven model. It's the most effective success story for wildlife management in the history of mankind, and yet we think that we can take emotional data and emotionally charged opinion and manage wildlife. And it goes back to the wolf, it goes back to the black bear, it goes back to all this stuff, and it just... That's why we produce this podcast, so that people can start understanding that and developing the language to combat it effectively in their area.
And I will say this, and I want this to be known too, houndsmen are listening to this, do not go too far in the other direction either, because we ourselves can get emotionally charged and go too far. So
like
stand
I just
back. No. I mean, the points you're making are valid for both of all sides, because no one will take us seriously unless we ourselves are calm and rational. And I think that's really important. So I just want to make that be known, because I see a lot of really hardcore vitriol from both sides, and I'm like, that's not going to accomplish us a thing. You know what I mean? Which is the whole point of this podcast.
And Chris, I will speak upon the kind of middle ground, because Seth is a biologist, and I'm a houndsman, and I work with biologists, so I know exactly where he's coming from. So yeah, no, he's right. Like, let's find a middle ground. Like, we don't have to be right every day, every time, or whatever. But the if we try to go too far in our direction, we lose them. And so we gotta hold the middle ground and keep the biologists on our side, like Seth. And
I'm on your side, buddy. I promise.
no, I know you are. But anyway, you know what I'm saying? Like.
Oh, absolutely.
You can totally lose the whole concept by going too far. So, anyways, like keep. I guess just try to keep in the middle of everything.
Absolutely.
The best thing that I think that houndsmen and outdoorsmen can do is learn the facts, take the time, learn the science.
That's right.
So that when you get in one of these conversations, when you have the numbers and you have the scientific proof, you don't have to get emotional and emotionally charged, because you can simply say, listen, here's the scientific data that proves what I'm saying. Where's your proof? Show me your proof. And when they continue to be an emotional mess, then they look bad. Yeah.
I'll tell you, they'll take us way more seriously when we're cool, calm, and collected, especially when testifying, in front of a board or legislature. Some people that I saw testify today in that NRB meeting, I was like, first of all, you didn't put yourself together. You look like you rolled out of bed. And they were like pretty much screaming at the board. I'm like, that's just not the way you get your point across. Now, these were pro-wolf people. These weren't the houndsmen. The houndsmen were very, put together, dedicated, collected. They know what they were going to say. And it did not feel emotional.
No,
and Shorty said, Shorty said earlier that, the current trend in everything is bringing this emotion into stuff, and we've got to get back to somehow we've got to get back to the science and the numbers. You know, back in the 40s, 50s, 60s, when the North American model for wildlife management was super effective and we were bringing back populations, you know, people were still connected with the farms and life and death. And, you know, people are moving into the cities. You know, they're more and more removed from true life all the time, life and death. I mean, there's people that have to crawl in a safe space and go hide because something died, their cat died or their dog died. I mean, we can't, the population as a whole can't deal with emotions these days, and it's never going to get any better. It's a fact where it's only going to get worse, and we got to definitely present a unified front. Learn the science, learn the numbers, present your case in a professional manner. People are going to pay attention to people that they think are professionals and they know what they're talking about.
Be a leader. Go.
Yep. Yeah, and yep. No, that's right. That's a very good point, because when you walk up and you look presentable and you sound like you know what you're talking about, people are going to listen. That's a great point.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this podcast is always about talking about the truth and talking about the things that we have to do as houndsmen to keep enjoying the lifestyle that we live. And there are other things out there that are entertaining. You know, you can turn on Netflix and you can watch reruns of Seinfeld or whatever you want to be entertained. But this podcast is designed and was actually created to give people knowledge and facts about how do we keep this thing going. And I'm never going to deviate from that. We do have some episodes that are fun, and we've had fun on this episode, but I really feel like my first and foremost obligation is to give houndsmen the tools that they need to be able to fight for their freedoms in their home states and in their home areas. So I'm not going to deviate from that.
Glad to be a part of it. Yeah.
So
likewise.
It's important. Yeah.
You got to get involved.
These conversations, it's done.
Yeah.
Mark?
You know, and this is something that's really stuck with me is the Michigan boys. You know, they're really active, the Wisconsin boys. I mean, they got their stuff together. And, you know, they go and they meet with their legislatures. They talk. They call them. They go to their offices, and they show up in person, shake their hand. It's a heck of a lot easier to ignore 50,000 emails than 50,000 people standing in your office looking you in the eye saying, what are we going to do about this problem? So, you know, if we can get involved and really, you know, in person, I think is a big thing to these legislatures. We got to get active in that respect to try to get our point across.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I totally agree.
Yeah.
Totally agree.
Well, let's wrap this one up, guys. Mm-hmm. I appreciate everybody taking time tonight. Of course, Houndsman XP team. It's always fun. But Mark, I really appreciate you taking time out of your schedule to join us tonight. And I wanted to have you on here specifically because of your background in wildlife biology and your work there in Maine. And so thanks for taking time to join us tonight.
Yeah, I appreciate you. I've really enjoyed it. It's a great group of guys, and it's a worthy cause.
It's hard to get a word in edgewise around here. Lauren, you got something.
One lady drinking. You said great group of guys. I got to get my feminism in here for a second.
What's that thing called again?
Oh,
two chicks.
Two chicks.
Sounds liberal.
That was a horrible
lesbian.
business choice, by the way. That was a bad name.
No, I was just going to...
I don't know. It got our attention, didn't it? So I think
I was going to say,
Yeah,
I'm listening.
I perked up a little bit. What was that? Oh.
If I'm getting drunk with two chicks,
what?
I'm pumped. You know?
Shorty.
Yeah.
Shorty,
And
what?
there's whiskey
Hey.
involved? What?
Rein it in. Cut her off. Shorty, you got any final thoughts?
No, let's go to the next one.
All right, Seth, go ahead.
Let's go to the next tree, Shorty. Let's go to the next tree.
Yeah. I think we covered everything we want to. I just want to throw down one thing. We debated about this. Hard on Monday at work, and with this final thought: is it pronounced coyote or is it pronounced coyote? That's the only thing I was going to bring up, but we'll let the listeners debate it out. I want to hear. We're going to do a poll. Is it coyote or just coyote? And with that,
well, hey, I'm saying yo.
That was also an option on the table. But I think in the vernacular of the American,
make that an option. Yo.
All right, I'm creating the poll right now.
Great.
Song
and
dog.
Mark,
Don't forget to put song dog in there.
Just for you, Chris. Just for you.
Hey, thanks.
That was Chris's prison name, Song Dog. Right there. There it is.
Singing a tune.
There it is. And with that, I'm done. I'm out.
That's a classic right there.
We know what'll make him sing.
Lauren, that was your final thought.
Yep.
Guys, I appreciate it. Let's sign off for now. And till next time, you follow your hounds, I'll follow mine. We're out. You people.
That was
Song
a great
dog.
ending.
That's a good one.
Circle, guys. That came
Are we done?